This is my legacy. Welcome to this week's bonus drop. Today, we're sharing more from our conversation with Simon Sinek, best-selling author and leadership visionary. Let's jump in.
Simon, I wanted to ask you a really important question that's based on the philosophy of the book, What is My Legacy? And what we try to do is really lean into Dr. King's concept of the beloved community, but we find that around connection, and we find that around the idea of fulfillment and leading a fulfilled life. Mm-hmm. And you being a philosopher and an incredibly practical leader, so putting those two hats on at the same time.
Practical philosopher?
I love that. I love that. You could coin that. In your opinion, based on your experience, how does one live and lead a fulfilled life?
So I think fulfillment comes from knowing that your life and or your work are contributing to something bigger than yourself. And that is relative to one's own ambitions and goals. Yeah. You know, somebody who's devoted themselves to parenthood and sees a child flourish and go on to be something bigger than themselves will find that feeling. But coming to work simply to make money, it's exciting at the beginning, but it doesn't contribute to a feeling of lifelong contribution. Yeah. And this is where vision matters. Mm-hmm. You know, vision is an idealized version of the world we want to live in. And when your dad said, I had a dream, he was articulating a world that did not exist, still doesn't exist. It's an ideal state that we strive towards. We'll never get there, but we'll die trying, and that's sort of the point. And all of the markers, all of the progress, all of the waypoints, 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 3 steps forwards, are proof that we're getting closer and closer and closer to this idealized state. And that's what leads to a fulfilled life, that I'm making progress to a world that is better than the one we live in now.
And how do you find fulfillment in your own heart?
So I have a vision of the world that doesn't exist. Yeah. I imagine a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired, feel safe wherever they are, and end the day fulfilled by the work that they do. And I strive to build that world in my work. You'll see it in my writing, you'll see it in my speaking, you'll see it in the products that we sell on our website. They're all contributing to advancing towards that vision. But it's how I work very hard to show up as a person. It's how I am as a friend. You know, if you ask my friends, what do you love about Simon? Invariably they'll say something to the effect of, I can sit in a room with him, I don't even have to talk to him, and I feel inspired. Mm-hmm. My standard when I come off a stage, I don't want to be, it's very nice when people say that was interesting, it's very nice when you say you're entertaining, that's all lovely, and I appreciate those compliments, but the one that fills me is when people tell me that was inspiring. And so it's work, it's work to do those things. But when I'm advancing that, and it's imperfect, and I'm imperfect, and it sometimes doesn't work, and sometimes I'm grumpy, and sometimes I forget. But when it works, it is deeply satisfying on a very, very deep, deep, deep level.
Thank you.
Simon, I don't know if you realize this, but I used to monitor the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazis and skinheads. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Yeah. One of the things that we play a lot when things get very heavy in our home is Dr. King's speeches and sermons. And I love the way there's one in particular that recharges me. And he talks about the fact of liking and loving. Mm-hmm. He says that, he's happy that in the Bible it says that you don't have to like your enemies. Mm-hmm. And he went on to say, because there are some people that you just won't like. Mm-hmm. And he said, I won't like the man that bombed my home and almost, killed my child. I can't like the man who, bombed the church and killed, 4 children. But then he went on to talk about love. And I think that it always is a misconception when we talk about love, because people automatically think about the sentimentality of love. It's an acknowledgement. And when we start from, number one, separating, if we're talking not from our friends and those who we have love for, but society at large, it starts with separating the evil act from the individual. And I also think for me, it gives me great relief to know that I don't have to like everybody, and that's okay to not have to like everybody. It is an acknowledgement of our shared humanity and coming, I think, from that place, which I think is another way of what you're saying.
That's so good, and it's so right, which is, we're supposed to love our fellow human being, but we don't have to like everybody. I think we conflate and confuse these words and these feelings because we add the sentimentality. Yeah. Is an interesting comparison. Have you ever watched the TV show First 48? It's kind of an insane show. It's it's reality TV where it's basically following homicide detectives. And homicide detectives are not like regular beat cops. You know, cops are some of the most cynical people you'll ever meet because they generally see people at their worst on a day-to-day basis. You know, but homicide cops are a completely different breed, and they have this sense that no one deserves to have their life taken, and like they'll investigate the deaths of drug dealers. No one's going to miss them. They've been a blight on society. They've done damage. They may have caused harm themselves, but damn it, it's not for another person to decide when they live or die, and they seek justice. And I'm always fascinated how they seem to have love, but they definitely don't have like.
Yes.
And to see how it affects the way that they approach the world is very, very different.
If you believe in deeper, more honest conversations like this, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who values them too.
Simon, as we sat here talking, and what kept running through my mind was you described solitary confinement as a form of torture, how we need each other in connection.
Yep.
And the last time we spent meaningful time together, we were in a far off corner of the world, and we were reflecting on the McMansions, the gated communities, the closed doors, and how in North America people seem to strive to work so hard to earn enough money to pull themselves away from everyone else. They want to be on the private plane. They want to be on the McMansion. They want to be in the gated community. And the irony is that they are shutting themselves off from others. And so when I look at our time in Kenya, I was reflected by the fact that you said one of the most inspirational people you ever met was Mama Jane.
So one of the things that is, for anybody who comes from the West, when you go to Africa, especially when you go to rural Africa, which is where we were, where there is real poverty, like the tropes of the mud huts, they're living in mud huts, that we have this assumption that because they have less in terms of money or material wealth, that they are unhappy. And yet you meet people who are in these circumstances who don't die of heart disease. They don't get as many cancers as we do. They don't have diabetes. And they're smiling all the time. Now, let's not confuse feeling wealthy and happy with struggle. They absolutely struggle. Their lives are absolutely difficult. And they are with each other and help each other. And the lesson that I learned from that trip is we are so arrogant in our wealth that we just assume that people who don't have our wealth must be unhappy, which is the same mentality as a heroin addict feeling unhappy for all the people who don't do heroin because they don't have our high. All you people who are sober, you don't feel how good I feel, completely neglecting the fact that we're addicts. We're addicted to money, and they are not. And yes, they have struggle, and yes, they have needs, and yes, we want to help them, and they should be helped, and they're learning how to help themselves, but they are happier. And you look at the kids, too, and there's data on this. There's data that shows that kids who have fewer toys have better imaginations and actually have more excitement. So, like, again, we go from the West, and we go to Africa, and we see the kids playing with a stick and a tire, and we're like, oh, poor kids, they only have a stick and a tire. And yet they're laughing and they're smiling and they're giggling the whole time. You know why? Because they have an imagination. That is not a stick and a tire. That is something, that is a game they're playing in their minds. And I came back from that trip realizing that I'm an addict like everybody who lives in the West. And I would rather foster a relationship and relationships like theirs. And again, the ability to separate struggle from happiness. They're not the same thing. And Mama Jane is this self-appointed community leader because she decided she wanted a house that wasn't a mud hut. She wanted a brick house, which is expensive. And she figured out a way to sell the milk from her cows, that she would walk hours to go to the center of the city to sell her milk. And over the course of time, she saved up enough money. She goes into the village. She goes into the center of town, finds a builder and says, I want to build a house. She says, this is the money I have. He goes, well, that won't build you a house. That'll build you a couple of walls. She goes, well, let's start there. And she eventually saves up enough money and works hard enough, and she builds a house that she invited us into and is immensely proud of. And she helped the other mamas, the other women, the other mothers in the area to teach them how to also save up and also build their own houses. And the part that really got me was the joy that she had, the smile on her face, the expression of absolute pride when describing one of her friends or one of the people in her community who built a better house than hers. Now, we don't do that in the West. We want our house to be the biggest. We want our house to be the best. We want, what did Teddy Roosevelt say? Comparison is the thief of joy. And I love that he used the word thief. It steals a feeling from you.
I say that all the time to Yolanda. That's why he looked. That's why he was like, yeah, that's my.
Comparison is the thief of joy, and we live a world where we watch social media, where everybody's friends are prettier, everybody's vacations are better, everybody's life is more complete, everybody's achieving their financial goals, everybody's in shape, everybody's going out to great meals. I can know because they keep taking pictures of their food, and and we sit at home by ourselves, scrolling, thinking I hate my life. And the thing that I found so amazing about these magical human beings is also when we went to one of the schools, and we went to a girls' school, a high school, as you know, because you took me there. And they have cell phones, they have Instagram, they have social media, they have access to the internet. They are not addicted because they spent a life fostering a relationship, and they're just not addicted because they have real friends. And it reminds me of an experiment. Most of our understanding of addiction comes from some experiments that were done in the 50s and 60s where they put a rat in a cage and they gave it 2 flasks of water, one just plain water and one that's laced with drugs. It tries both of them. It likes the drug-laced one. It eventually gets addicted and drinks so much of the drug-laced water until it dies. Okay? And most of our understanding of addiction comes from these experiments. Except the experiment is flawed. A guy by the name of Bruce Alexander recognizes that rats, like human beings, are social animals. And if you put a social animal by itself in a cage with drugs, it's going to get addicted to the drugs. So he recreated the experiment, except he made it more realistic. He called it Rat Park. He put a huge cage with lots of rats and mazes and wheels, and they are having babies and community and friends, the whole deal. And they put up 2 flasks of water, one plain, one drug-laced. They all tried both. They all tried enough of the drug-laced one to get addicted, except they didn't. They can see from the data that they drank the plain water. So it starts to give evidence that if we have a strong sense of community and if we have close relationships, we become less susceptible to all addiction. And so, yes, social media is insidious. Yes, the social media companies absolutely bear some responsibility, and they can't do buyer beware. That's nonsense. That's like giving somebody, fentanyl and saying, well, not our problem. No. Buyer beware is you don't get a free pass. If you don't like it, turn it off. It's not how addiction works. But if you take lonely people and you give them an addictive thing, they're more likely to get addicted. These kids in this high school in Kenya, because they had such close friendships and they were taught how to be friends and they help each other because they had to, just aren't addicted to the same addictive things that we are. And so it becomes, I think we have a lot more to learn from rural Kenyans than we can teach them. I think we are so arrogant to think that they should learn our way of life. I think we should learn theirs. I came away pretty humbled.
My greatest takeaway from Kenya is that, well, first of all, when we were traveling, we saw all of the satellites on the houses. So I thought initially maybe the difference was not having technology, to your point, and that's not it. What I loved too was that you said Mama Jane, is that all of the mothers are called Mama. Mm-hmm. And you call each other, so it doesn't matter who is the biological mom. Mm-hmm. It's like, and so to me, it represented that sense of community and connection, that you truly are mother to all, and that, that it really is, it takes a village. We see the embodiment of that even in the power of language and words.
It's an honorific, right?
Yeah.
It's such a good observation. And you see it in places like India and other parts of Asia as well, where family friends are auntie and uncle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it also bestows not only a respect, but also a sense of community and responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simon, while we were in Kenya, you were so kind to join the four of us, so now the five of us, to become co-chancellors of a college called Legacy College. And it's this amazing facility where we do programming for students in business, tourism, and nursing, and then also international programming. And you were inspired by that college, and you inspired the students of that college. Why did that college speak to your heart?
I mean, it's pretty humbling to recognize that my work has made it to rural Africa.
In a big way.
You know, where the kids there had my books that they wanted me to sign. I mean, that's pretty humbling, you know? So superficially, that struck me, of course.
They were so excited to meet you, Simon.
But thank you, and I them. But I think the thing that inspired me more than anything was the purity of their desire to learn. They're such good students. With, here, if another tech startup tells me about their first principles, I'm gonna like just gag myself with a spoon. just like nobody knows what they're talking about when they're talking about first principles,
Yes.
Which is beginner's mindset.
Yes.
And all beginner's mindset and first principles means is I'm gonna pretend that I don't know anything and be a student of whatever it is. Except we're not very good at it, and they really are. And they show up with unbridled curiosity. They show up with no ego. They show up humbled that they have so much more to learn from people who know more than them. They have nothing to prove. And as a result, they are smarter than us. They are more communal than us. They are more successful than us. I mean, let's be honest, the speed at which they learn. I mean, let's just talk about those high school girls again. Microsoft generously donated, I think it was Microsoft, generously donated a bunch of computers to this high school. And they show up, the story that we were told is they showed up with all these laptops, all connected to the internet. And these kids these are teenagers, these are high school girls that have never seen a laptop in their lives. They've never touched one, they've never used one, they've never used a computer. And Microsoft said they would train them and expected this would take months and months and months for something that we all grew up with. And I think it was days that the kids were completely fluent and ready to go. Days.
They were shocked. Like
they couldn't believe it. And it's because you talk to these kids, they speak multiple languages. They ask the most brilliant questions. And I think you can tell a lot about someone's level of curiosity and intelligence by the questions they ask. And these high school kids were asking me better questions than I get from most adults in the United States. I think there's a humility we need to learn. We have a lot more than they do for sure, but it's not always healthy.
Well said.
It's not always healthy.
Simon, we've talked about love, connection, fulfillment, friendship, showing up.
Now we have to talk about cats.
We can talk about cats and dogs. I'm a dog person. But
do you know the difference between cat people and dog people?
Tell me.
Dog people wish their dogs were people, and cat people wish they were cats. Think about it. It's right.
I have
There's no Andrew Lloyd Webber musical about dogs. That's weird. Nobody dressed up as a dog for Halloween. They dressed up as cats for Halloween.
Well, I have a 120-pound Bernese Mountain Dog, and my wife lovingly says there's 3 of us in the relationship.
Right.
There you go.
Because people who are dog people wish their dogs were people. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. New episodes drop every Wednesday with bonus content every Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss a moment.